Good afternoon, Scouts. My name is Assistant Scoutmaster Cole. I'm an Assistant Scoutmaster with Boy Scouts Troop 1 here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Today, we're going to go over knots and lashings. So, without another word, let's get into it. Alright, the first knot we're going to do is called the square knot. The square knot is a rather simple knot, and it is used when you're going to maintain pressure on something, like if you're tying something shut, or if you're trying to tie ropes to hang something. So what we do, there are two different ways of doing it. The traditional way is right over left, left over right. You've probably heard that before. But we go right over left, and then we're going to turn it like that, and then left over right. And again, we're going to turn it, and we pull it tight. If you did it right, the short pieces will be on the same side. In this case, they're both on top. And the knot itself will have a very square shape to it. The other thing is, if you push, it should just come apart. There it is. So it comes loose, and it looks almost like a pretzel. Now, the other way of doing a square knot, and the way that I prefer, is if you take your rope and you make a loop like that, and then you take your other piece of rope and you're going to fish it through the loop, around, in front of or behind, doesn't matter, and then it's going to go back through the loop. Comes out like that, you pull it tight, and that, actually I made it what's called a thief's knot. A thief's knot is when these are on opposite sides. So I need to redo that. There we go. Now that's my square knot. And then if I'm using it and I'm maintaining pressure on it, it's a good knot. It's not going to have any problems. But if I pull on it improperly, as in if I only pull on one side, it can turn into a slip knot. The knot that it can turn into is called the two-half hitch. Two-half hitch is tied by taking one piece of rope that's firm and straight. We're going to have another piece of rope go over the top of it, come around behind, then it's going to go across the top of itself, then it's going to go behind again, behind the main rope, the blue rope in this case, and then it's going to go down underneath itself. You see that? Now, by tying that, I've got a rope here, and this yellow rope will slide very easily. It's very useful because it will slide, but as a recourse, you cannot depend on that to stay put. If you're trying to have something that needs pressure on it, it'll just slide. It's not going to hold. Alright? So, let's do that again. Square knot. The square knot is right over left and behind, just like that. And then left over the right one. See that? And then we're going to pull it tight. Again, short pieces are both on top. This is good. And that is a proper square knot. Now, I use two different colors of rope so that you can tell what I am doing. If you only have one piece of rope, you can tie the square knot just fine. All you have to do is pay attention to which side is which. But it's harder to see on camera. Alright. The other way of tying a square knot was the loops. So we're going to make our loop. Short side is on top. We're going to take our other piece of rope. He's going to go down, round behind, and then he will come up and through the hole. And there is our square knot. Okay? Alright, the next knot that we were going over was 2 half hitches. Again, 2 half hitches is when you have one straight piece of rope, and then you're going to fish your other piece of rope over the top of it. It will go around that piece of rope in front of itself, over the top again, this time from the back forward, and then it will go under itself again. Now, it should tighten down just like that, and if I hold this rope back with my chin, it'll slide. That is great for hanging towels and that kind of thing on a camp out. If you need to hang something from guy line inside your tent, this could be your guy line, and you'll hang a handful of ropes inside your tent so you can move them around and hang gear. That's a great resource. Now, anyway, the bowline knot. Usually, the bowline knot is tied out of one piece of rope. So first of all, I will show you out of one piece of rope how it is tied. Then I will switch to the 2 pieces of rope in the different colors so you can see exactly what is going on. But, to make it easy, first of all we make a loop. I like to stick my pinky up. There's my loop. Now, I'm going to hold the loop right there in place, and with this I'm going to go up from the bottom. I'm going to go around behind itself, and then I'm going to go back down through the loop there. When I'm done, it almost looks like a figure 8 there. When I pull it tight, that is a bowline knot. That is the life-saving knot. One way you can tell that you've done it correctly is they say if you've done it correctly, there's going to be a life vest built into it. You've got the loop over the front, which would be the part that goes around the neck, and then the strap right there. So it'd be the loop that goes around the front and then the strap that goes across the chest. That's your life-saving knot that is very useful if you are in a situation where a scout falls off a hill or something to that effect and you need to get a rope down to somebody. You quickly throw together your bowline and you throw them the rope. That way they can get it around themselves and you can pull them up. Now, as promised, I'm going to do it now with 2 pieces of rope. With the first piece of rope, I'm going to go around and make my loop. Sorry about all the fidgeting, I got a few flies in here. Anyway, from this point, I'm going to go up from the bottom with the other colored piece of rope. Going to go around behind the long piece of rope, and then back through the loop. Alright, now this time, here's my life vest. The yellow part around the neck, and the blue cross part is the part that goes across the chest. That blue is the loop that I initially made. There's the back of the loop right there. And there's the front of it again. Alright? Let's do that one again. That is a difficult knot, and I know this. Okay. Make our loop. Hold the loop. I'll give you a few seconds to get your loop. Other piece of rope, you will be using the tail, the short tail of your piece of rope. I'm going to use another piece of rope. I'm going to fish up. Then it will go behind the long piece of rope and back down through the loop. And then I will pull. I'm holding these 2 pieces here, both ropes there, and this one, and I'm just going to pull. When I pull, that will tighten up into a nice tight knot. and that gives me my life vest, the part that goes around the neck, and then the chest strap. Okay? Alright. There are a few other knots that, as scouts, we are expected to know. One of them is called the totline. The totline is a very useful knot and is great for making an adjustable loop that will not tighten on itself, where you can slide it, but it will not close itself. I think you'll understand what I mean in just a second. So, first of all, I'm going to start off by tying a nice big loop over here. That will make it a lot easier for me to have this around my shoulder and pull it tight. Okay. Now I don't have to hold it with my chin. Alright. I'm going to start off here, and just like the two half hitches, I'm going to go over the front, but this time, instead of going across itself, I'm going to go over the front again. Now I'm going to cross, and I'm going the backwards, so I'm going from the back to the forward, and then through itself. Now it's got 3 rings there. Tighten that down, and I like to pinch them together and make them look nice. Alright, once this is done correctly, I can pull on this blue rope and it is not going anywhere. But if I so choose, I can grab onto it and push. That way, I can use this on my tent so that once I have, I often use a bowline on my tent to tie to the tent itself. Or, I'm sorry, to tie to the stake. That's it. I tie a bowline and I use the bowline to put the stake through. On the other end of the single piece of rope, I tie this to the totline rope. Totline hitch, actually. That way, I can adjust how big the loop is that's on the tent. So if I need to tighten up my guy lines, I can just tighten that down, and it will maintain the pressure for as long as I need it. And when I'm done, let me put this back on my shoulder. When I'm done, I can just slide it loose, and that will loosen up the line around the stake, which will give me the ability to pull it out more easily. That's something I like to do, and on all of my tents, I do that exact same thing. So for the stake side, it's a bowline, and the bowline will hold, it will not move. I make it a lot smaller than this, but it's a bowline. And on the other side, it's a simple loop with the top line built into it. The top line goes on the tent side, because the tent has loops for the guy lines to attach to. That way, it doesn't matter how big I make the loop, it's there, and it's not going anywhere. Can't pull it, it's not moving, but I can slide it, and then I can't pull it again. Okay, the next knot that we're going to do is called the sheets bend. The sheets bend is very much like the square knot. First of all, we're going to take our loop, then we're going to take our other piece of rope, we're going to go around the short piece. See how that's the short piece? We're going to go around the short piece and then around in front. Take this piece around behind, and we're going to lap it under itself, specifically under the blue under itself, and we're going to pull it tight. That didn't show very well because it's too short. Okay, now we've got the yellow piece of rope and the blue piece of rope. Both short pieces are on the same side, and that is the sheets bend knot. Sheets bend. Kind of like hotel sheets. So let's do that again. All right. Again, I'm sorry about the flies. Now, we're going to take the rope. I've got the short piece on top. This piece will come in from in front, go over the top where the short piece is, and he's going to hang down. Now, I'm going to come in from behind and wrap him under himself. So I have to pull up this piece of rope here so I can wrap him under himself, and he will hang just like that. Pull it tight, nice and tight. And what we have here is the blue piece of rope loops there, and then it goes around the yellow rope. This is a very good rope, or a very good knot rather, for when we are tying two different sized pieces of rope together. We grab some of the rope that we'll be using for lashing here in just a minute, and I'll show you. This rope is much thinner than this rope. This is 550 cord, and this is called bank line. Bank line, it's I think 200-pound test, something like that. Not very strong. This is 500-pound test. Big difference. Now, if I were to tie a square knot, there's a very good chance that because of the size of the bank line, it will not hold. Let's try that. Ready? Oh, see how much that slipped? I wouldn't put my life in that. So all you need is a little more pressure and it snaps. Okay. But there is a way that we can do that. Alright, again, we're going to put the short piece on top. Come in, around the front, loop underneath and around behind. I'm going to push up on this extra piece of rope to provide that loop that I'm going to need, and I'm going to fold that rope into it. Alright? Now when I pull on it, it will form the sheets bend. Now, let's see what happens. No problem. It's still holding. Because the way it works is that this black rope isn't necessarily holding on to this blue rope. This black rope is holding on to itself. That is why it crosses itself right there. By doing that, it provides its own strength without needing to worry about the size difference between the two pieces of rope. This is an excellent rope when attaching two ropes of different sizes together. Alright? That is the bowline knot. Or, excuse me, that is the sheets bend knot. I'm human too. I mess up. Alright. Anyway, the next knot that I'm going to show you guys is the first knot that we're going to do when we are working on lashings. Now, yes, I know you guys are not there yet. That's okay. Some scouts in the future watching this may be there. You, when you get to that level, will be able to review this video and will remember how to do the different knots, as well as it'll be a review of the old knots, as well as going through the required knots for lashings. Alright? First knot is called a timber hitch. Timber hitch is a knot that is typically used if you're dragging a piece of wood or something to that effect. The way it works is you've got a piece of rope and a stick, and you're going to wrap the rope around the stick loosely. There we go. Now, once I've done that, this piece of rope will double back on itself. See that? And then it will go around itself at least 3 times. 1, 2, 3 times. And then I'm going to pull tight. Now in this situation, this stick is actually too small for this. But it's good enough for demonstration. By doing this, I can put a lot of pressure on it and it's not going anywhere. But if there isn't a piece there, because it's just wrapped around itself, it doesn't have a lot of strength in and of itself. Anyway, some people say that when you're doing lashing, it's good enough to start off with the timber hitch. I actually disagree. Bugger. Sorry about that. Alright. Some people say that when you are starting off with a lashing, it's good enough to start off with a timber hitch. But I disagree. I don't think it holds off strong enough, especially when dealing with a smaller piece of wood like this. I've got several of these specifically for this purpose. Alright. The knot that I have been taught that is probably the best knot to use for lashing is called the clove hitch. Okay? Again, there are several ways of tying this. You have your rope in front of your piece of wood, cross around, and then it's going to cross on top of itself. Alright? Cross around under, and this time it's going to stick up through the hole. See that? What we have here, we have kind of an H or an N, either way. And then we're going to pull it tight. We can squeeze the back together nicely and pull tight. Now, this knot, as long as it maintains pressure, will not give. But if you leave it just to hang there, it will work itself loose and just fall off. Okay? So, if you're in a situation where you're intending to maintain pressure, you're building a fence, for instance, you can use your clove hitch to guarantee that it's going to maintain the pressure and that it will hold it for you. Alright. That's a clove hitch. The other way of tying the clove hitch, I'm going to scoot this down, I'm going to grab my other piece of rope. The other way of tying a clove hitch is instead of, putting it on and looping it over and all that, if we make 2 loops, make a loop over here and a loop over there. And as long as I do them right, there we go. Alright. Now, we have to have one with the small piece up, one with the small piece coming out this way, the other one with the long piece coming out the opposite direction. We're going to slip the wood into those 2 loops. We're going to grab the small piece and the long piece, and we're going to pull. That is our timber hitch, just like the blue one. The exact same knot. Just an easier way of tying it. The disadvantage of doing it that way is if you're working with wood with a bark on it, or very coarse wood, or if you're working in the middle of a long piece of wood, you don't want to have to go over to the end of the piece of wood and, okay, well, here's the first loop, and here's my second loop, and now we got to put this on here and make it sure it's okay, and then slide. That's not necessarily a good thing. It's better to come to where you need it and just go over the front, like that, over again, and this time the little guy's coming up, and then pull tight. Okay? Now, once we have our timber hitch in place, again, I'm pulling it tight to make sure it's nice and square. I get to start my lashings. I'm going to take a second piece of wood, and this first lashing is called a square lashing. Alright. I am going to go across the front of the second piece of wood, around behind the first. Across the front and around behind the first. Cross, around behind, cross, around behind. Alright, once I've done that 3 or 4 times, now you do need to do this nice and tight, or tightly to use proper English, because you don't want your pieces of rope or wood to be sliding around. I'm doing loosely so I can show you what I'm doing. Once I've done this, I'm going to go around just this one piece of wood. So I'm just going to go a full loop around this piece of wood, and then I'm going to go right in between the two guys right here. I'm hoping you can see this. Alright. Again, we need to pull this nice and tightly. We don't want it to be slipping. Once we have got that, we're going to tie it off with another clove hitch. Loop. Loop and bind. There's our clove hitch. Now, if your wood does this, if you can slide it, it's not tight enough. Again, this is demonstration only. So, let me undo this quickly. Alright. I'm lazy. Alright, see? I'm done. Alright. Start off, clove hitch. Alright. Clove hitch tight. Piece of wood in front, I'm going to hold the two. Round in front and behind. Front, behind. This time I need to start doing it nice and tightly. Okay. At this point, I'm going to go up and then around that one piece on the side, and I'm going to go in between the two. Again, maintaining all the pressure on this piece of rope. I'm putting a lot of pressure on it. Okay, that should be good. Now, from here, I'm going to hold it with my hand. I can relax my hand for a second. I'm going to do the clove hitch. Under itself. Come on. Under yourself. There you And I dropped it. Okay. There it is. Okay. Okay. Now, they say the good measure of a properly tied lashing is that you should not be able to twist without a lot of resistance. And you hear it clicking. Listen to this. Hear that? That means it's very tight. That means it doesn't want to move. That's good. That is a very tight lashing, and that will hold. Now, let's undo that. Now that it's a proper tight lashing, it is much more difficult to undo. something to be aware of. I can't exactly just pull the ropes out this time. All right. Now, even at this point, if I maintain pressure, it should be difficult to twist. Again, you hear it clicking. All that you are doing by going around it is it tightens itself up. This tightens those ropes even further to the wood, making it even harder for the wood to slip. Understand? That's why we go around like that. It also builds a separation between the two pieces of wood. By pushing them apart just a little bit, it forces those ropes to tighten significantly. All right, almost done here. Okay. While I'm working on this, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is my usual Scout channel where I teach basic Scout skills. And I am the introductory or the basic Scout instructor at Troop 1, where I teach the boys how to go through, or I work with the boys rather, to go through their the requirements for Scout and Tenderfoot and second class, and get them into their first class merit badge, their rank rather, not merit badge. Once they are a first class Scout, they're considered a senior Scout, and they work with the other Scouts in order to progress in rank and level. All right. Now, you've seen how to do a square lashing. The other kind of a lashing is very similar to it. It's called a cross lashing. Again, we're going to start off with our clove hitch. Start off a little longer. Here we go. On behind and up through the front. Okay. Here we go. Now, this piece of wood is going to go in front just like it was last time. I'm going to slide this guy over and I'm going to hold it. Now, from this point, last time we went under, across, and over, so we are going with the direction of the wood. So every time when there's a piece of wood like this, we're going to go like this to hold that piece of wood to the other one. That's the square lashing that we did just a minute ago. This time we're doing the cross lashing. The thing that makes the cross lashing unique is in its name. It goes across. Okay? And across. And it slips. Okay. Sometimes it slips. That's okay. Cross. And then, now I'm not going across on the back side, I'm just going around. Across, around, across, around. Alright? We're going to keep going like this. Until we've built up a good amount of cross lashings. Once we've done that, again, I am doing this very loosely for demonstration. When you are practicing, you want to practice tightly doing this. Okay? We're going to go around the one piece that it's on, and then we're going to go in between the two, just like we did on the last one. Turn this so I can show you exactly what I'm doing. Hard to do when I'm trying to show. Alright. And then at this point, we're going to tie it off again with our, what was the knot called? Come on. Clove hitch. That is not a clove hitch. I lied. Okay, let me do that again. We need to tie it off with our clove hitch. Alright. Okay, that's our clove hitch. That is our cross lashing. It goes across like this. When you do it tightly and you do it nicely, it looks pretty neat. Now, this time I did it loosely and not very carefully, and so it doesn't look very neat. It doesn't look very nice. So, let's undo that. Again, I'm just doing this as a simple display. Now let's do it the way that we should be doing it. Okay, second piece of wood. Snug up the clove hitch. Alright. Cross. Behind. Cross. I want to keep that little pigtail off the clove hitch out of the way. Behind. Cross. Do this tight. Behind. Cross. Behind. I'm going to do this 3 or 4 good times. Okay. I should be able to clean that up a little bit. Make it look nicer before I really crank it down tight. From this point, I'm going to go around the piece of wood, and now we're going between. Okay. From this point, I have not tied it off yet. Let's check how tight it is. Hear that? We'll move this over here. Ah, it's a good tight knot. Okay. Tie it off with our clove hitch. There's our clove hitch, and that's tight. Now the advantage of the cross line is it gives you a little more flexibility even when it's tight. Okay, so you've got a little more flexibility in how the ropes can move because of going across. That gives you a little more flexibility. Whereas the other knot, the square lashing, is designed to hold it absolutely firm and not to give you the wiggle. Now, depends on what you're trying to do, quite frankly. The next knot that we're going to work on, or the lashing rather, is the tripod lashing. Tripod lashings are great for building a tripod. You can build this to hang, let's see if I can get my hand on that. Alright, you can build this to hang a pot over the fire. You can hang a rock in camp rather. They call it a weather rock. It's kind of an inside joke. You can hang a lantern from it and have almost a street light inside of your camp so that everyone can see the lamp light, and it's much better than having it on the ground. It's about as good as hanging it from a tree. There are quite a few different uses for having a tripod. This time I'm going to be switching to my black bank line rope. It's a lot thinner, which is easier to work with smaller pieces of wood. Alright, As usual, we're starting off with our clove hitch. Okay, big lines up, short lines down. All right. One about up there. Yes, this is harder for you to see, I understand, but I've tied the clove hitch quite a few times, so I'm hoping you should understand how to tie a clove hitch at this point. Now, I'm going to take the other two pieces of wood and put them right up against this piece, just like that. I like to have the top square, nice and clean. It's up to you. If you are doing something specific, you may want the centerpiece longer. It's up to you. Alright. From here, I'm going to go across the front and around behind the third piece. I'm going to go around that piece and come behind the middle piece and around to the front, to the first piece. Again, we're going to go all the way around the first piece, go to the middle, go in front of the middle one, up, and then we're going to go all the way around the third one. We're going to do this a good 3 or 4 times. Alright. This will be my last time. Alright. Looks pretty nice. But we're not there yet. We're not done yet. Again, you should be doing this where it's very tight. I am not. Okay, from this point you're going to spread the first 2 legs apart a little bit. You're going to go in between the 2 legs. You're going to go all the way around. 1, 2, 3. I did 4. I did these wrappings 4 times, so I'm going to go between the legs like that 4 times. Alright? Now, I'm going to go across the middle one again. And then I'm going to go between these 2 legs. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Now you have to tie off your piece of rope that's remaining. Again, I like to tie it off with a clove hitch. It is okay to have a little bit of extra rope hanging off, especially if you're going to hang something from it. That is actually better. I'll show you why right now. When you separate your legs out to stand them on the ground, that extra little piece of rope hanging down becomes the piece that you hang on to. You can hang your lantern to it, you can hang a pot to it, whatever. By doing that, you have got a very tight and firm support that will hold a good amount of weight, especially in comparison to the amount of weight it is. It is very light, but it will hold quite a bit of weight, because you are forcing the weight down all of the legs, driving it straight into the ground. So by doing this, it's great to hang a lantern here, and at night you can light it up and it will light up the area, kind of like the street lights. You can also build a tent this way. If you take a piece of a tarp, rather, you can wrap it around the tent and it'll build kind of a teepee. Have a door here, back around behind it, and then you can put your gear and your beds and so forth inside of it, and you will have a teepee. And then you can either put another piece on front or tie the 2 pieces of the tarp together at the very front, the closing sides. That way you can make very much like an Indian teepee. This is one thing that you can do that's great for wilderness survival. It's a great way to spend the night if you just want to show off on a scout camp out. I like to sleep in tarp tents. This is one way to do it. Another way would be to bend this piece up and tie another 3-leg lashing here, so that you would have the legs split just like that on both sides, and you would put your tarp over the top of it, and that would form your tent. It's up to you how you want to use it. There are a lot of uses. When you are in the woods, this will give you the ability to build yourself a shelter. You can also build tools this way. If I were to split one of these pieces of wood and put a sharpened rock into there, sharp side forward, I could lash the sharpened rock to the stick and make an axe. This is how wilderness survival happens. This is how they used to do it back in the old pioneering days. They didn't necessarily carry a big axe with them into the woods. They carried a metal head. When they got there, they'd find a stick, they'd split the stick, put the axe head in it, tie the knots, and then they had their axe. So, that is your TP lashing. I'm going to undo this, and then I will redo the TP lashing. And this time, I will do it nice and tightly. As a way of practicing this, I have been building TP lashings for my desk at work and even here at my house, so that when I'm just sitting there goofing off on my phone or on my iPad, I've got my TP lashing holding up my iPad. That way, the iPad is stable, it looks pretty cool, and it's good practice. Alright. Again, clove hitch. Just start it off. You can start it off with other knots, but I still find the clove hitch to be the best. There we go. Now the two pieces of wood, I'm going to put it in the middle this time. You can put it anywhere. All right. Now, here we go. I like to put my finger on it as I'm working. That maintains the pressure so I can put this down, or I can remaneuver it without having to worry about it. Alright, that's 4, and that's 4. Now I'm going to go down and around the leg. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, this time, looks like I'm going on top. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and I'm going to tie it off with a clove hitch. And I am just barely out of rope. Okay, that's all right. I will short this last one down to 3, and it should be okay. Okay. There's my clove hitch. Tuck that up nice and tightly. Again, and see how it works. I can't hear it this time. Kind of hear that one. This one's moving a little too freely. That's okay. Because with the when we are doing a tripod lashing like this, the strength is when we fold it out, it tightens the ropes. I'm actually going to move this guy down a little bit. Move this guy down a little bit. All right. Here we go. That's my tripod. There's my tripod lashing. I have built my tripod, and I can use my tripod. One piece of rope, that's all it takes. I've got this piece of rope is about 4 feet, maybe 5 feet. But I'm working with very thin wood. If you were working with branches that were, you know, arm thickness or something like that, you would need more rope. But this bank line is very good for lashings, even at that size of wood. It holds very well. Okay. I can open it up. I can build my fire here, hang down my pot, or even hang meat directly over the fire from the tripod. I can hang a rock, I can hang a lantern, hang just about anything from the tripod. That is the tripod lashing. Alright? So, we have done the tripod lashing, which we just did. We have done the square lashing, and we've done the cross lashing. Those are the 3 lashings that you need to know in scouting. There's actually a 4th one called the straight lashing. A straight lashing is when you've got one stick that is not enough. If you come to a river, you're trying to get to the other side, you need to build a bridge, you can do it with your lashings. First of all, you take one piece and then your other piece. Now, we're going to start off with clove hitch, as always, because the clove hitch will maintain pressure as long as it's being held. If you release pressure, the clove hitch will release. Now, and put that piece just below, and we're going to wrap the 2 pieces of rope together. Now, again, we want to push them so that they are closer to each other, so it looks nice. Now, if I were to build a bridge, that is not enough. What I would actually do is I'd grab a 2nd piece of rope and do a 2nd straight lash over here. Between the 2 of them, it won't go anywhere. Alright? Once we've done that, we're going to go around it as much as we can, nice and tightly, a couple of times, and then we're going to finish it off with a clove hitch. And then I will do the other side of the straight lashing. At Boy Scouts camps, often they will have figures or bridges, that kind of thing, that are held together with simple lashings. This is how they do it. Lashings are very powerful. They are how we build things in the woods without hammers and nails and the things that we've become largely accustomed to. In wilderness survival, all you need really is rope and a knife. Everything else you can get or you can make. A saw is definitely nice. Tarps, definitely nice. But you can get away without it. You can live without a tarp. You can live without a saw. You can live without axes and bow and arrow and everything else. You can just make them. Okay. 4. see if I can get in between there. All right, I cannot get in between there, so I'm just going to tie it off. Just come across and tie it off. Now, in a wilderness situation, I would cut off and keep the extra rope because that's useful. In this situation, it doesn't matter. So I can just let those hang, or I can pull them out of the way. But that is a nicely tied straight lashing. Your ropes should be tied well enough that it doesn't want to bow like that. Again, I'm tying it loosely for demonstration. Notice this side isn't bowing, this side is, because this side does not have the lash around it, because I tied this side too tightly first. But that's okay. Alright, but ultimately its force is in this. It's not going anywhere, up and down. If I were to build a bridge, it would be like that, not like that. Like that, you can walk across the top of it, no problem. You could, if you tie them properly, have a handful of logs stuck together and lashed all together, just like that, and you would be able to form a wide bridge that you could take carriages over or even cars over. Your lashes are very powerful. Once you know your lashes, you know a lot about how to build things in the woods. And I'm getting a little frog in my throat. I think I've talked your ear off enough today. Once again, I'm Assistant Scoutmaster Cole, one of the Assistant Scoutmasters with Boy Scouts Troop 1 here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. If you would like more information on how to do your lashings, there are quite a few other videos that you can look up here online. And you can also talk to your local Boy Scout troop on how to do proper lashings. And I'm sure they will be more than happy to demonstrate. You have a great day. Please like, subscribe, message me if you have any questions, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Also, if there are any topics you would like me to cover in my introductory scout skills on this webpage, on this YouTube channel, please let me know, and have a great day.